Hello and welcome to the morning sports briefing here on Friday, the 9th of October. The weekend is almost here, folks, and it's Bledisloe Cup weekend this weekend as well. Yes, the return of international rugby since the lockdown. We've also got news from the French Open in the tennis, an update on how crickets will be happening in New Zealand. We've had a sprint stage in the Giro d'Italia. We've also had records broken in athletics. We've got some news from the Formula One ahead of the FLG Grand Prix in Germany, as well as the Auckland Rally. We've got some news about ahead of the netball series between New Zealand and England, as well as updates around rugby, with new dates for the Rugby Championship, as well as a new job for Joe Schmidt as well. So this is your best way to start the day up to speed with all of the important sports news. And let's crack on with that, with our update from Roland Garros with the tennis. On the women's side, we've had the two semi-finals. Swiatek beat Prod Rosaka 6-2, 6-1. Both of them were unseeded players. So Swiatek is the one that goes through to the final, from Poland. And she'll be meeting American Kenin, who won 6-4, 7-5 over Kvitova. Kenin being the number 4 seed here, so clearly the highest ranking player in the semi-finals. So good luck to both of them in the final. Over on the men's side of the draw, it's going to be semi-finals time. Djokovic the number 1 seed, will be up against Tsitsipas of Greece, who is number 5 seed, whereas Rafa Nadal, the number 2 seed, will take on Sherwozman, who is the number 12 seed. So all seeded players on the men's side of the draw at the semi-final stage. Heading over to golf, and we have 3 golfers who are in action this weekend. Lydia Ko is taking part in the women's PGA Championship after the first round, which she shot par. She's 3 shots behind the lead in tied 14th place. So a solid start from Lydia Ko in the Women's PGA Championship. Across to the States for the Shrinars Hospitals for Children Open in the PGA. And Danny Lee will be teeing off at just before 9 o'clock this morning for his first round. So that one he hasn't started yet in that one. This is his first one since he had that meltdown at the last major a couple of weeks ago, where his wrist injury hurt him, and he ended up multiple putting on the final hole. Coming back to Europe then for the BMW PGA Championship, and Ryan Fox has had a really good start there. He is 4 under par after the first round in tied 8th place. Ryan's had some good early rounds in tournaments recently, but his problem has been trying to string 4 of those together in the same weekend too. And so we wish him all the best in that one, and hope he has a consistent weekend this weekend in getting himself a good result in the BMW PGA Championship. I'm going to hand you over to Stephen now, who's going to take us through our birthdays and our league update.
Good morning, Paul, and good morning to everybody tuning into New Zealand Sport Radio. Well, it's a great old day in Auckland today. We're going to have a little bit of rain, and it's going to be a high of 20 degrees, but hopefully the rain won't be too strong as the day progresses, and you'll be safe as you're travelling around, but just be careful out there. Well, in birthdays today, a New Zealand motor racing legend, a football fan, and finally a powerful midfielder who starred for Tasman. And that's where we start our Birthdays this morning. Levi Amua, born this day, the 9th of October 1994, is a New Zealand-born, Australian-raised rugby union player who played for Tasman in the Marateen Cup competition. His position of choice was centre, very powerfully built. He caused defenders all sorts of problems. Now, Amua had a short stint in Super Rugby, appearing in 4 games for the Blues in 2019, as we turn our eyes to the round ball cold. Michelle Cox, born this day, the 9th of October 1968, in Auckland, is a retired association football player who represented New Zealand. Cox made her football ferns debut against Hawaii on the 12th of December 1987. She finished her international career with 18 caps and 6 goals to her credit. Now, Cox's mother, Barbara, and sister, Tara Cox, also represented New Zealand. And finally, in motor racing, Paul Radisich, born this day, the 9th of October 1962 in Auckland, is a retired New Zealand racing driver. He's also a businessman of Croatian descent. He has competed in saloon cars for many years, both European-style tourers and V8 supercars in the Australia and New Zealand circuits. Radisich is a celebrated driver and has raced in all forms of classes in the motor racing game. Now, he's also related to Frank Radisich, who's his father, and his cousin is Matthew Radisich. In fact, that's his nephew. That's who's a relative as well. He raced in supercars between 1998 and 2008. And he was with the Dick Johnson racing team. He was also with Briggs Motorsport, 888 Racing Engineering, and with Team Kiwi Racing, HSV dealer team. He had 106 starts and 3 wins. His best finish was 4th in the 2000 Shell Championship Series. Previous series were in New Zealand from 82 to 1990, 82 to 84 in the Formula Pacific, and 87, 88 in the Australian Drivers' Championship. And that's pretty much us for birthdays today. Have a great day, everybody. I will be back tomorrow with more birthdays and more league news. But just before we go, just a little bit of league news. Just a reminder, we've got the playoffs coming up this evening. The first game at the Sydney Cricket Ground between the Sydney Roosters and also the Canberra Raiders. That kicks off at 10 to 10 this evening. That should be an absolute cracker. And also look out for our second playoff game between the Parramatta Eels and the Rabbitohs. That's tomorrow evening at Bank West Stadium in Sydney, and that's a 9:50 p.m. kickoff. And that wraps up just our little bit of league news today. Hope you have a great day, everybody.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for the birthdays, and let's hope they all have some wonderful cake this morning. Moving on then into the cycling, and we had a sprint stage at the Giro d'Italia yesterday or overnight, and Armin Demar, the French champion for Groupama FDJ, powered his way to victory in that one in a very impressive style after looking like he was too far back in the group. But yes, impressive win by the Groupama FDJ rider in that one. He was ahead of Michael Matthews, from Team Sunweb, and Fabio Bellini of Astana. As far as the overall classification, there was no changes in that one, and one Alameda stays in pink for the overall. In cricket, and Cricket New Zealand has adopted most of the ICC's guidelines for COVID, and shining the ball with saliva is going to be banned this year, but allowing the use the sweat will still be allowed to be used. Also, umpires will not be holding onto players' caps or jumpers this year as well due to COVID. So with the cricket season nearly upon us, most of these guidelines cricket fans will have become used to with the over the northern summer. Over into athletics, and at a special event called Valencia World Record Day. 2 world records were broken. Uganda's Joshua Chepitage beat the men's 10,000 meter world record that has stood for 15 years. So congratulations to him. And Ethiopia's Lestebet Gide broke the women's 5,000 meter record, which has stood since 2008. So congratulations to them. Both of them had pacemakers, and it was all set up obviously to break those records rather than being a race to see who was fastest from that point of view. So, but congratulations to them for those 2 wins. Over in Formula One and ahead of the FL Grand Prix over in Germany, one of the Mercedes team members has tested positive for COVID. Let's hope that it's just an isolated incident, and Mercedes said they will be shuffling their team to cope with this this weekend. We've also had news from the Auckland Rally, with a whole bunch that will be taking place from the in November this year, using a bunch of from 14th of November this year, using a bunch of iconic stages that were going to be used for the New Zealand Rally in its return to the World Rally Championship. Already signed up. We've got Hayden Paddon, the ex-World Rally Champion star, the reigning New Zealand Rally Champion Ben Hunt, Jack Horswood, and the supercar star Shane Van Gisbergen will all be taking part in that event. So that will kick off on the 14th of November. Over in rugby, and new dates have been announced for the Rugby Championship. Essentially, the New Zealand Wallabies, or the All Blacks Wallabies game that was going to finish or they're going to have in round 6, is going to move 6 weeks earlier and start a week before the rest of the event. This is to allow the players to get back home, get back to New Zealand, and through quarantine in time for Christmas. There was obviously a whole bunch of claims and counterclaims around what was and what hadn't been agreed in various meetings. But it does mean now that the game that was going to take place on the 12th of December will take place on the 31st of October instead. Joe Schmidt has got himself a new role at World Rugby. He will be the organisation's Director of Rugby and High Performance. This is a brand new role that we'll see that has been created. He will stay in Dublin for this one and will be overseeing player welfare, training and education. Don't forget that today at 7 p.m. or 7:05, we have the Minus 10 Cup is back in action with the Manawatu taking on Canterbury in that one. I hope you all have got a wonderful weekend lined up. We're almost there, folks. You have now started the day the best way, up to speed with all of the important sports news.